Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for Prizefighters, Circus Freaks, and Gangsters. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Greta.
And as always, we are here to discuss the fun fashion, food, fraud, and fisticuffs of, well, generally it's the 19th century, but we are still deep in Shogun in Japan. We went all the way back to the 1600s for this because this show is just so damn good.
And this episode, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, there's so much here. I love it, I love it, I love it. This is a good one.
It's episode 7, A Stick of Time.
Yes.
I knew that it was incense, that they had incense sticks that they would burn, but that's about as far as my knowledge of this went.
Me too. I was just like, yeah, sort of like water clocks were a thing in, the Western world. I knew that incense sticks were kind of a time thing, and yeah. I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Instead of using hourglasses, they used incense sticks, and just like in the West, where we had longer days in the summer, and so the daytime sticks would be longer, or hourglasses would be longer than the nighttime ones, and then it would shorten in the winter. They did the same thing with incense sticks, which I find fascinating.
That is very cool.
It's impressive they could get such a consistent burn on an incense stick and mass produce them back then. You know what I mean?
Yes and no, but you also sort of think about how long, this had been a trade and how much honor. And I'm sure as you, went up and down the price points, it was better and worse.
Yes. Well, I'm sure they had some kind of central timekeeping like they did, like the King's Clock Man or whatever used to happen.
I'm sure it was sort of solar, lunar oriented as well. So anyway, let's get down with this cold open, which was the biggest display of fuck you Bushido ever. yeah, it's baby Lord Toranaga, and he's all of 12 years old, and he has won his first battle in Japan. And this guy is like, yeah, you may have beaten me because I started this stupid war, excuses, but I am going to destroy your tiny little child's psyche, whatever's left of it at this point.
You think that's what it was? Him choosing to have a child second him for seppuku?
Oh, no, I definitely think that was some petty-ass revenge right there. Because what
a horrible way to get petty-ass revenge, though. I'm going to make my death as ungodly, painful, and horrific as I possibly can by... Instead of choosing a season, you were supposed to pick the best swordsman around with the sharpest sword, who the second you reached for the blade, by the 1700s, they were lopping your head off. You didn't even have to stab yourself. And I think this time they were still stabbing themselves, but you still wanted, the second the blade got into their guts, they cut your head off.
Right.
And, you needed a person who was going to do it right and immediately. And instead, he chose a 12-year-old who we come to find took 9 strokes to get through this guy's neck. So I don't feel like that wasn't an effective fuck you.
But Jamie, have you ever run across people who are willing to seriously screw themselves over just so that they can screw somebody else over? I mean...
Never, well, maybe, but I just, I don't know. I think I blocked those people out.
I mean, you just, I just keep seeing it over and over. Anyway, I have to say that there are enough misplaced body parts in this miniseries at this point. There's a horror element to it, man.
There definitely is. But
the other thing, sort of with the way this guy looked and just sort of the setup of the whole thing, I was like, it is so obvious how much of the Star Wars Next Generation era Klingons are absolutely just drinking gallons of liquid from the Japanese Bushido, poorly understood culture.
Yo, you are so right. Even the shape of their foreheads is like the shape of the Japanese the samurai helmets. That's, oh my God, I never noticed that before.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be missed. And I don't know how much of it was super duper conscious, but just the language that Worf would use on and off through that series.
The hairstyles, the language, the The Bushido, oh my God, I can't believe I never noticed that before.
Yeah, and just the ripples through there. Like and so I'm not saying these guys look like Klingons. I'm saying the Klingons look like these guys.
Well, thank you for clarifying that.
I feel the need to be very clear about that.
I feel like we don't have any people listening to this who read at lower than a 12th grade level. So I feel like we're going to be okay. I don't think anybody was going to get that one backwards.
But I mean, just like the way, and you think about it, like this book came out in the 70s and, you know, and TNG started in the late 80s. So, dude, or the early 90s. Anyway, yeah, the ripples are there.
Well, plus this dude lived through, like thinking too, like him putting the harakiri in here. I probably mispronounced that, but I gave it a go. But seppuku, so seppuku is the ritual, and then harakiri is the actual act of disemboweling yourself. It actually means to cut out your guts.
Okay.
But the full ritual involves the second who cuts your head off, and that's seppuku.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was a big deal in World War II. It was a part of the idiotic idea to waste pilots and airplanes by turning them into bombs.
Yeah.
Which genuinely has to be one of the dumbest plans anyone has ever had.
I mean, yeah, that's desperation. That's also sort of a recognition of these planes aren't as good as like we said they were. But yeah.
I guess.
And just to throw it in there, in case people don't know, kamikaze is like 2 words, and the kami specifically refers to like the spirits. These like they talk about kami, and then so it's divine wind is like one translation, but you can't forget the word kame in there.
Yep, they are demons of the wind.
or spirits. But anyway, so
ghosts.
Boom.
They're Casper the Friendly Ghost of the Wind. Only
there's so many ways to go wrong with that.
Screaming bonsai with it at the end. Rah! That's a weird mental image, actually. Casper the Friendly Ghost piloting a Zero, screaming bonsai as he like hits the side of the USS Enterprise.
Oh my!
Just to get the Klingons in there, you know, we gotta tie it all together.
Back in there.
That's where my brain is today.
Okay. Well, and we get our fabulous, Game of Thrones Make It Japan intro. And then we get to meet Saeki. Just sort of like, speaking of ghosts, kind of like coming into focus through the mist in that awesome gray armor.
Oh, yeah. They looked cool as hell. That was like straight out of Lord of the Rings or something. They looked like elven warriors.
Yes. But the first time I watched this episode, I was watching it with my cousin, and she's like, why is he wearing a penis on his head?
Well, so that hat is, those hats go all the way back to Central Asia. They're old-timey Saka hats. People have been wearing those weird-ass hats ever since, like, the pre-Christian era, like, at least 500 BC. I know I've seen them that far back, but they probably go back further than that. Those gnome hats are the dumbest looking hats humans have ever well, that's not true. Because in Peru, they got some weird looking hats in Peru. But
I mean, like 15th century fashion, like the leer pipe hats where dudes were like wearing these turbans and like wrapping it fashionably around. Like everybody's got some weird ass hats. Europeans can't say that they did any better.
But holy shit, now that I'm thinking of it, at some point we were just going to have to go through sci-fi series and identify all of the Asian cultures that they have used for their looks. Because even Princess Amidala, her whole look was the last queen of Mongolia, or the last princess of Mongolia. Like, just one for one. You already know this. But I mean, if you look at a photograph of that lady, it is Queen Amidala in 1900.
Oh, yeah. The way they did her makeup, the way they did her. Yeah, they just filed the serial numbers off it, and they're like, Space Princess. Here you go.
Space Princess with laser swords.
Right. So anyway, Saeki, like, he rides in looking cool as hell, and you can just see everybody's kind of... they've chilled out after the earthquake. It released all this pressure, and this guy's coming in like a hydraulic press and just pressurizing the entire situation. You can just see like, oh, everybody's tightening back up.
Well, he's got that whole, like, old school Chinese theater, like, stroking his beard, ha 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 ha, thing that everything he says, he strokes his beard and goes, ha 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 at the end.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got so much to burn about Toranaga. Like, he was the older son, and like he's just been sitting back in his kingdom, whatever, just soaking in his resentment, just luxuriating in his, like, how much I hate my older half brother.
Boy, these people are nothing if, like, they just love to put up that, like, I have nothing on my face. And then inside, it's just like nothing but hate. Just keeping it, you know, they're just keeping it locked deep inside so it can pressurize even further. They were all a ticking time bomb of fury.
Yeah, and I seriously did love how Cosmo Jarvis, Anjin Blackthorn, he, like, comes in clomping around to be up there, and, like, everybody's, like, all standing straight and tidy and everything. And he, like, practically, like, shoulder clangs into the bannerman. Like, he's just, like, he's, like, walking around like a drunk dude. It's hilarious.
I love this actor. He is a maniac. And apparently he acts like this. That's just that's his gimmick. He's just kind of like the drunken master actor.
I mean,
not that he's actually drunk, but he just has that, like, wild-eyed, kind of slovenly, but hot while slovenly thing going on.
And so, yeah, he is the perfect contrast where he is just, like, literally bouncing off of other people, the walls, just, like, flopping around. Like, he bows with his shoulders, not with his whole body, you know, just all of it. And last episode, there was this thing that Lady Ochiba did to stand up where she's kneeling, and she pulls her knees in to her body and then stands straight up. And I'm like, that is some core strength like nobody's business. And then the reason I noticed it again, because Mariko does it, and maybe it's been going on all along, but just like watching Anjin just like flopping around on everybody, and then watching these women stand up, I don't know, like reverse waterfalling basically is just insane.
They really do have a very unique way of moving. And right now I feel like I'm having deja vu because yesterday on the news they were just going on and on about postures with proposals and wedding proposals. Apparently it's all the rage to talk about on the internet.
Postures with what? Okay.
Yeah, the manner in which a man proposes when he gets down on one knee, if he has the Anjin style or the Japanese style, basically.
Are they tidy or a flopping mess?
Exactly. Yeah, okay. It's more of like an obsequious, like holding out, like you're like my precious, and you hold it out kind of thing, as opposed to my queen. Here's your ring. It's a bit of a
we're all body language experts now. Okay, cool. Right. Yeah. All right.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Okay. As of yesterday.
But so my favorite part, it's like, okay, there's like this big war coming, we're all in a hurry, but no, we got to do this right. Got to go take a bath, got to go drink some sake, got to go hang out in the whorehouse. Like, there are things we must do before we conclude a deal. Come on.
Oh, and fun fact, that's actually part of the ritual for seppuku. You're supposed to take a bath beforehand. You basically get a rub down. You drink some sake. You give a bowl of sake to your second, and then you're like, all right, we did the thing. Oh, you write a poem. Then they cut your head off.
You got to write the poem. Yes.
Yep.
And Anjin's like, what is this? Come on, let's go. I want to do some things. And Toranaga's like, dude, there's a place and a time for everything, and it's called not right now.
It's like this dude never had a job in his life. So his boss calls him into his office, and he's like, I got some shit I want to discuss with you. He plops down his chair. He's like, you know what? Fuck what you got to say, because I want to tell you some things. Like, let me tell you how to do your job. And then when his boss is like, how about you shut the fuck up so I can tell you what I'm going to do? You're like, no. I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is tell you again, in more strict terms, what you are going to do to let me help you, because you're fucking up, sir. And he just keeps doing it, and it's like, God damn, man. And his interpreter's like, let's keep your head on your shoulders for 5 more minutes. How about you shut the fuck up? That's your boss.
He winds Toranaga up so much, he actually says no. He gets a Japanese person to say no. Yeah. Oh, it was great. And just
like at some point the producers had to just like accept like it is going to rain for this whole fucking shoot. Like, fine, still raining. Okay. And they just, I mean, they go with it. But, I mean, that's the reality of, you know, Pacific Northwest. They're in Vancouver. But also, you know, northeastern Japan in the winter. It's just going to rain on you. You can't do anything about it. It's just like life. So I love that they just dealt.
And she did actually, she presaged that in an earlier episode. Like, oh, yeah, the weather's about to turn to shit.
Right? It was so good.
Yeah, it's San Diego right now, but it's about to be Seattle. Buckle up.
Yeah. And so one of the major pluses of it is we get to see, you know, feudal Japanese era rain gear, which I'm like, that's kind of fun. You know, you've got the conical hat, which is a great, you know, umbrella. Don't need to like use your hands, but the sort of like straw rain gear thingy that they drape over, that's fun.
All of it looks nice, and it's such an amazing I wish we could have like just, you know, a show where there is a similar plot going on in two different places, like the Medicis and, you know, Ito or something like that. So you can see the, you know, similar things happening in two entirely, like, you know, so we can actually compare the time periods a little bit. It'll never happen, or maybe AI could do it at some point, but my God, wouldn't that be fun?
AI would fuck.
Oh yeah, no, I mean like 20 years down the road when AI hasn't been taught by people with double-digit IQs.
Yeah, they'd still just scrape stuff off the internet and be all. Anyway,
fucked and racist. Yeah, they'd be racist as shit too.
Oh my God, yes. But Gin is just loving telling Omi no. Like, nope, girl's busy. Kiku, nope, she's been bought. Isn't she awesome? Huh, by the way, the whole Anjin thing, you know, he wasn't really here for her, right? Wink, wink.
Yeah, and boy, you know, I think that a lot of people maybe underestimate the amount of gossiping that goes on. Like, it doesn't even occur to me that like anybody would ever watch something that I did and then tell another person about it. So I just don't pay attention to that shit. But yeah, so to see the, like, you know, after last episode when she was like, be careful, every single thing that you do is being watched, like every little thing, and every step you take, and then here it is, the second that they leave, like, oh well, they, you know. Yeah, well, he fucked this other lady, but he didn't really want to.
Yeah, and then I super enjoyed, they just sort of show what's going on in Anjin's house, and Fuji just kind of like running the show, and just like all of the work that goes in to, you know, these clean houses and these exquisite bites of food. I super enjoyed that they just threw in a little bit of that like housekeeping detail. That just looked cool.
It did there, and like, well, as the grandpa says, like, it is a beautiful house. Like,
yeah,
the whole thing is, yeah, it's. But I mean, like you said, especially in the era before vacuum cleaners, my God, that would have been a lot of sweeping.
Yes, hot and cold running servants. And you know, she gets her husband and baby back, and she's like, "Thank you, but."
Well, no, she gets their ashes back. Well, yes, her husband and her baby are long dead.
Okay. Fair enough. And so, yeah, she's going to be able to bury them or whatever. Anyway. But she like drops her control for a second. And she's like, yeah, I mean, this is hard and it sucks. And her grandpa's like, what? She's like, toxic positivity. No, we're going to do great.
Well, no, before that, she's like, but I want to die. Like, as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to die. And he goes, well, why not live and bask in the victory that your son and your husband died to achieve? And she's like, nah, fuck that. I want to die, man. And that's why when she's like, well, we're going to lose anyway. And he was like, shut up. Like, what is like, we don't need that negativity. Just negative Nancy. Go take that into another room.
Right, yeah. But, I mean, as somebody who's, like, been holding it together and just being like, no, everything's fine. And, yeah, she definitely, like, just drops the curtain. She's like, ugh, I'm just exhausted here. I would like to be able to express my true thoughts. And he's like, what are you doing? She's like, right. Nope, we're great. We're fine. It's going to be good. Yep. And she smooths everything over. But yeah, Grandpa does know what's up. And it's like, yeah.
Well, he also genuinely likes her. You can tell that. So her life isn't all misery. She does have people in her corner. Like, this guy is looking out for her. He does want the best for her.
And he does back up. Like, yeah, Buntaro's an ass to live with. Like, I'm really sorry
he knows.
about that.
He's like, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. But you know what? We got a Jenga tower here. Gotta keep it standing. So no jiggling too much.
And we all do see those relationships periodically where the in-laws like their in-law kid more than they like their own kid. They're like, well, you really jumped on a grenade for us, and thank you for getting this fucking idiot out of our hair. And I feel like that's Buntaro's dad. He's like, look, we're going to keep throwing you money and servants. Just keep this dickhead out of our house. Please, we can't have him back in the house.
Yeah. We thought he was dead too, and yet Zombie Buntaro, he's back. He's back again. Like, hey,
son of a bitch, he's gonna plague us of all of our lives.
Yeah. But we get a little hot spring showdown, and Saiki and Nagakoda, which we are calling Nepo Baby. Yeah, Saiki is just like poke. He's poking the Nepo. Come on, do something rash. Come on, poke. Come on. Then he goes in at Toranaga and tells like that gross story. No disrespect. It's like,
oh yeah. So they're all sitting at dinner. They're sitting at this very, very nice dinner, and they're all asking him to regale them with tales of Lord Toranaga's, glory, and his kid wants to hear about. He's like, oh yeah, tell me stories about my dad when he was young, because that's what all sons ask.
Right.
Every son wants to hear like, what was my dad like at my age? Because you're curious, what the hell was he like at my age? And and then he tells a story that is untrue, that he chopped a guy's head off while he was surrendering, which was not the case. The guy asked to die, and he chopped his head off as a second. And then he tells another story where he, the first time he had to leave home, he shit his pants and
it's
rode
like,
for 2 miles.
See, your dad wasn't that great. Rah. And, crickets. Talk about not reading the room. Boo.
Well, that's when you realize that he's actually the heel, and all that evil laughter at the beginning was actually evil laughter, and he just doesn't have an evil. He's not just a nice guy with an evil laugh. He's an evil guy with a good laugh. So, yeah. Because he's like, oh, yeah. You're all fucked now.
and when he goes, so you going to give me this province for helping you out? Oh, doesn't matter. Just going to take it. And this is where my cousin, she's like, he's not just a dickhead. He's a double-crossing dickhead.
DCD. It's the worst kind. Boy, but it really did seem obvious in retrospect. Like, well, the second you get to and I'm sure everybody's sitting at the dinner when they're sitting around and they're like, oh, that laugh, yeah. We all looked around and we were all like, I remember I said to you, I was like, oh, that's an evil motherfucker. He's probably going to turn on us. And then we all, no, we were right the first time. We should have gone with our first instinct. Were like, we should have stabbed those guys as they walked past us.
Right then. It was pretty funny when he like hands the order to like arrest Nepo Baby to him, and they're like slapping his hands. It's like, you don't take that paper.
Don't you know anything about being served? You do not take the paperwork.
You do what Toranaga does. And he's like, I am honored by your attention to me. I will contemplate this. Like, you don't take the paper.
Yeah. You don't read that crap. What are you going to read it aloud?
Yeah, and you don't even like refuse it. You just later it. I'll do that later.
Yes.
But yeah.
I will take that under consideration, and I shall speak with you at a later date about it.
Yes. And he does go to contemplate. What did you think about the scene where he's like up in the fog again, and there's the Torii Gate, and he's doing that thing with the rocks?
I didn't know what the hell he was doing. He was just trying to flip a rock onto the gate?
Right. And to me, I was just like, that is the kind of shit that like kids do or people do, was like, I don't know what to do. I'll like it'll be good luck if I could pull this off. And the fact that there were already rocks up there, I was just like, yes, that's totally a thing somebody would do if they're just like, God, I don't know what to do.
Yeah,
I don't know what to do.
I will take that under consideration, and I shall speak with you at a later date about it. Yes.
I don't know what to do. 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 I don't know what to do.
It was definitely so nice to not have another dumbass scene where somebody's in Captain Morgan pose staring off into the middle distance off a cliff or some shit. When has that ever happened in history? No, it's much more likely, like you said, he'd be flipping a rock, like just trying to think it through, and he's like, I'm just going to flip this rock to give me something to do while my brain works in the background.
And it totally looks like something you would have done with your friends as a little kid. Like, you know... Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. There was just something so compelling and real about that. I loved it. And then, of course, he comes down and everybody's like, okay. So what did you decide? What did you decide? And he's like, shut up. I don't know. I'm thinking, okay? And Toranaga, like, even if he had figured something out, what? I'm going to tell you nutballs? No.
Yeah, because you'll immediately run off, tell half a dozen people, and then fuck up my plans.
Right. So, yeah, because he is definitely playing cards close to the chest master here.
Yeah, he knows that Omi's going to run to the Willow House and tell every whore he could see. Like, literally everyone.
And then... You know, you get another bucket delivery, this time to Yamashige, and he's like, there's a head in there, isn't there? There's a fucking head in this bucket. Nobody brings
It's pretty funny, because the dude walks in, and the brother walks in, and he's like, yeah, so you remember how you tried that secret negotiation to try to get out of this shit that Lord Toranaga got you into? Yeah, well, you have your answer right here in this bucket. Go ahead and open it. And it's like, God, it's just like when Joe Pesci hands you a bucket, you're like, there's a head in that bucket. You know what it is. You know what it is. You already know. He hands you the keys to a car, don't start it. The end.
No, it's going to go kablamo. Yeah, there's just some definite things in here. But yeah, they're coming down off the mountain and everybody's like, come on, tell me. And so when Gin shows up and she's like, you're going to talk to me. He's like, you know what? I am going to talk to you so I could just scrape off these jerks for a minute. Whatever you're going to talk to me about is not going to be war. And literally, that's all I want right now.
I do love the one guy's look of constant bemusement, though. And I keep screwing up all the names. But the guy who tried the secret negotiations and failed, his look of bemused resignation that ends in like kind of a half grunt laugh. That like I want to be friends with that guy because like
Yamashige.
Yamashige. Because like he'll take anything on the chin and he'll just smile and be like, well, I figured I was going to get fucked over. Let's go get a drink and we'll figure this out.
Well, and he dresses like the 17th century Japanese equivalent of a rock star, too. I mean, like that crazy feather coat he had a couple of episodes ago. Like his helmet has like that, I don't know if it's like kind of a lion's mane looking thing. Like he is a flamboyant dude.
Yeah, he's definitely my vibe. I'm feeling that guy.
He's kind of a sicko, but you know, he's into writing poems while people are dying. But hey,
that's what samurai did. They were all about writing death poems. I don't get it, but
even if it's somebody else's. But so Toranaga talks to Gin, and this is where the stick of time comes in, where she gets like one incense stick to talk to him. And they're in this windy-ass tent. So Toranaga goes, this isn't going to take that long. Like, that stick of incense is going to burn down.
Oh, that's clever. I didn't even pick up on that. But that's why she kept looking at the stick. Because she was like, God damn, that thing's burning down fast.
Yeah. So did you sort of catch, like, what that conversation was all about?
She negotiated for the very thing that I described in the last episode, the Karyukai. Yes. So she negotiated she was trying to negotiate for a district, a pleasure district, in which you could have many tea houses and other entertainments, and it would all be self-contained, and it would be an easy way for people to be entertained in Edo, which again is Tokyo. So the Edo period is the Tokyo period. And,
right.
Yeah, so I just loved it. I loved that it was this lady negotiating for, like, help protect us and we will help you. And she even gives him advice and proves that she's like, I am very, very valuable to you, sir. You might think I'm trash, but I got knowledge for you. And I love that whole scene.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's so great because the Edo period, this place taking, like, all this stuff taking place sort of centered around Tokyo, that is what's coming next. And we are technically, Shogun takes place in what is called the Sengoku period, It's like the end of this like complete civil war, like warlord mess period. And then so the Edo period is when that like all finally calms down.
Oh, so the Edo period doesn't begin in 1600. It begins in like 1610 or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
We talk about like this is, really, really based on like the one English sailor. But so Toranaga is a stand-in for Tokugawa, who is like the first, shogun associated with the Edo period.
Yes. And the Tokugawa shogunate is, okay. Those two words go together for a reason. I did not realize that before.
We're reading up on this as we go along. But so he's like in the process of inventing Edo as kind of the center of Tokyo, and she's in the process of inventing the geisha system. Yeah.
That is awesome. I didn't get a chance to look, because I didn't realize this was based on an actual person, but now I'm curious to see if that woman is real, because the Willow world is a very fascinating, that whole thing is very fascinating, the idea of having geishas and everything.
Right. And there was sort of like the Willow world existed, but it wasn't as regulated, and it certainly wasn't as structured as it became during the Edo period.
This was like they were creating a mini Las Vegas, essentially.
Right. And so up through Sengoku, only women ran sort of this prostitute courtesan network. I mean, I'm sure there were dudes involved. But once it became more systematized and regularized and regulated during the Edo period, then you had sort of men doing some of the running it. And so, yes, it did sort of take women out of power, but it also made more women wealthier, and there was better security. Like, there was better job security, and there was actually a track where I was talking about before, like, a lot of these women sort of, you couldn't all become, gracious madams. There was sort of a welfare system for a lot of these women. So, it did sort of even out that
that's what she was talking about developing in this. Like, we need some security in our... Because she was saying, like, I'm old, and we get thrown away when we're old, and, like, we need some security for these women who, like, so please put us under your protection. So, like you said, it's a better way to think of it when you're, like, we're just, we need extra protection as we grow older because, everybody is less capable of protecting themselves when they get older. It is a much less... pejorative way to put it,
so yes, men become involved, but on the other hand, these women are more respected. Like before, they were just sort of like, well, but now that they're like a guild, basically recognized by the power structure, there is some more security in it. So it's complex and interesting. Like you said, there's just so much there.
Yeah, and then there's the whole aspect of the male geishas, and I assume they had their own class, and fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a whole...
But yeah, I do love how sort of after all that's over, he's like, you're right. Not talking about war. Love it. But Gin gets the last word and she's like, yeah, I don't think you're giving up. You're telling everybody you're about to surrender and like give up. I call bullshit.
Yeah. We both came from the gutter. We're here. We're going to fucking do this. You're a badass. I'm a badass. Yeah. Let's be badasses together.
Yep. And he's like, yeah, really? Yeah. Again, like, sort of like, would you shut up, but like in a very nice way. Like, game recognized game. Definitely.
Yeah, she walked off with a smug little expression on her face, and he looked thoughtful, and that's all she wanted. She planted a seed in her head, and it definitely bloomed.
Yes. And then it's time for the showdown at the hot springs. We're all gonna like posture our way through our bath here, baby.
When Yamashige. Well, see, I wrote that down as sword lessons because Yamashige was trying to teach Anjin how to wield a samurai sword.
No, when Yamashige gets in the hot spring and he.
Okay.
And they kind of like the browns and the grays are like kind of having the showdown and they're like reaching for their sword. No, I'm just taking this. And they be like, okay, but there is that conversation.
Well, because he prefaced it with. Well, I guess there's not room enough here for all of us. Yeah. And then he reached for his swords like, oh, well, we're going to fight this out. But then he took his swords off and he was the only one to get in the hot spring. Right. So that was a fun little way to get everybody to jump.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, he loves it. But then we get the conversation between Nepo Baby and Omi, and they're like, oh, yeah, back and forth. And it was such a great illustration of conservatism versus progressivism. And not even like these are conservative values and these are progressive values. It's just like more of the attitude coming out about it. Because Omi's like, God, I wish everything could go back to the way it was. And Nepo Baby's like, yeah, but it was so boring and and Omi's like, yeah, but it was peaceful. Boring isn't so bad when this is the alternative. And so it's just like conservatism based on fear and progressivism based on irrational exuberance. And both of them as your only position are problematic. But it was just like fun sort of seeing how these two things can develop everywhere.
That is a great point, because it was, that was a really good allegory for just the different kind of views. And it pointed out the pluses and minuses. Like, well, we wouldn't have all this awesome shit that we have right now. Like, we're rich now, and we were poor. Yeah. We were poor and bored before, but we're rich and the shit's exciting now. And he was like, yeah, but wouldn't it be better to be poor and bored? And he was like, well, you wouldn't be eating right now, so I don't know. Yeah, and it's sort of like both of those as like the extreme stance is a problem, and the right way is a middle way between the two for sure. And then boop boo, we get Saiki just like strolling in. I'm here to yank some chains. And again, he's just like poke, Nepo Baby. But yeah, he's just the best like Chinese opera villain ever. Seiki's hair is gorgeous. Just gotta say that. Well, his whole outfit is. I mean, you loved him right from jump. Yeah. As soon as he came through the mist, you were like, "Oh, I'm on Team Seiki." Like right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Wherever this is going.
Yeah. You had your shirt printed up.
Yep. So now we go to the beach, and before we get to the sword lessons, like they're panning around the beach, and you see the big iron pot that poor idiot got boiled in. And I was like, oh my God, I know why that's there. You know why that's there? That is to boil whale blubber, because they're all using whale oil in those like clamshell lamps sitting on stands.
Yeah.
That's the community like blubber boiling pot so that they can have oil to light their houses, because they don't do candles.
That makes sense. Huh.
It just exploded in my head. I was like, oh my God, I know what that is. What? Because like they didn't like drag that big pot out there. Like, no, that lives out there. That has a job. That thing is probably 150 years old at this point or something.
I figured it was just going to, however this whole thing shook out, they were going to be boiling somebody, so they were going to need it sooner or later.
But anyway, so going on. So let's head to the beach, and yeah, we get sword lessons.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, when somebody doesn't understand the language that they're being spoken to in, and somebody has them draw their sword in a gruff fashion, I don't think that he was real clear initially on what was going on. And plus, Yamashige is so, like, bemused and gruff at the same time. I'm sure he couldn't tell if he was, like, happy that he was finally going to get to kill Anjin-san, or if he was trying to teach him how to sword fight.
Maybe he wasn't sure either. I mean, I just think he likes to fuck with Anjin. Like if I could just like kind of poke you occasionally, like what? I don't have Candy Crush to play to amuse myself, so why don't I go like pick on the barbarian some?
Well, I was surprised that he wouldn't have known how to sword fight. You would think that would be something you'd have to learn because of, swashbuckling pirate shit.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too, but again, like, I don't think Anjin wanted to, like, pull the sword in any sort of confident way. I mean, because he was holding it like a Western sword, like you would hold a cutlass one-handed.
Yeah.
But he's like, I don't want to be threatening at all. Like, I want to look real,
I'm not trying to look like I'm trying to kill a samurai. I'm just going to stand here and look frightened. That could make sense. But it could also be like, You're not going to teach the tech guy on your Mission Impossible force to, like, how to fire a heavy machine gun. So maybe he didn't. Maybe he just... Because he's the pilot. If he dies, they're all fucked. They don't want that guy holding a sword. They want 6 guys around him holding swords.
Right. But I think Yamashige still hasn't made up his mind if he wants Anjin dead or not.
Yeah, well, they do all blame him. I mean, and again, it is a nice allegory for what's going on now. Like... They blame the outsider for all of their problems. Every single person is looking at Anjin and being like, it was all him and that fucking ship. If they hadn't shown up with that fucking ship, none of this would be happening.
Yeah. But you know who has made up his mind about whether he wants to kill Anjin-san?
Buntaro. Yeah. I have mispronounced his name every single time I've said it. I don't think I'll ever get it right. But... he is an angry man, and sooner or later, he will eventually die.
Yes. Yeah, because he's just, like, going after him, and I think he's like, I want to kill you so bad, but I can't kill you with you lying on your back helpless. Like, that's just going to hurt my pride too much, so...
This would have been like if, during Donald Trump's presidency, we had gone to war with somebody, and the only person who could allow us to win the war against this other country was, like, a Mexican national. Like, you know, and then just the agonizing, like, the agonizing decisions that Trump's team would have to make. Like, should we listen to this man? He's speaking in Spanish. Maybe we should just shoot him. You know what I mean? It would have been similar to this situation with Anjin-san, I would imagine. Oh, do you think that's why Buntaro didn't kill him, was because he was laying on his back? I think he was not, because he was going to have to disembowel himself the second that he did if he didn't get permission. Because then he runs off to Toranaga and he's like, let me kill this dude. And he's like, would you shut up, man?
Yeah, okay, also that.
Yeah.
Oh, like, he is now... propelled forward in life by his, like, desire to kill this dude. I've got to figure out a way. Yamashike's looking at him like, Buntaro, you worm. Like I was doing a thing here, and you just had to, like,
Yeah. I was trying to see if I could teach our pet monkey how to hold a sword.
Right?
And you fucked the whole thing up. Like, the monkey almost did it.
Right? But, you know, we get a new weapon. We get to see Fuji working the naginata, the big spear. What halberd? It's basically a Japanese halberd.
Yeah. But that it is a naginata. You are correct. And yeah, they are well, I don't know that surprising. It would be surprising to anybody that it's difficult to use one of those things. But that is like one of the most traditional weapons in all of, like, China and Japan. Like, they have a god of war who wields that thing. His name is Guan Yu in China. And the blade is 44 pounds. And you are a mathematician. I am not. But it's a 6 foot half that he's holding. I don't know how the hell he wielded that, because I don't know how to do the calculations to determine what the weight of 44 pounds is at the end of 6 feet, but it's a lot.
Yeah, the force you would have to do. Okay, there was, I think it's Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but one of the Chinese kung fu movies, there is actually, like, they show a version of that where, yeah, it's like this just big fucking heavy thing on a pole. I don't think the Japanese naginata could be that heavy.
No, but they had them all of different weights, and they actually their weightlifting training implements were a lot of them based on the halberd, and so they would use heavy. They had heavy ones and light ones, but she would have been. I would assume that they had a smaller one for women, since they were noble women were expected to use them.
Right, because you saw, like, Kid Mariko, like, using it, and so I'm sure they had, like, a youth version and a competition version and all of that. But they actually did bother to get a stunt person to wield it in the long shot, because, like, I did some bow staff work, and I was like, no. They got somebody to wield that correctly and have the good moves. And I appreciated that, even though it was for, cool. 3.5 seconds, because you could see the way she was handling it in the close-up shots. Like, she didn't have that same facility. But I was like, thank you for just making her look good for a second.
They do that. I mean, I keep going back to that damn straw in the first episode, but just how damp, artfully damp the straw was in the box that the muskets were in. It was so amazing. Like, they have put so much effort into every last detail in this. Everything.
Yes. And so another fashion point, like how her clothes were all like tied back with that strip of cloth and everything.
Okay.
That's because traditionally Japanese clothing is made in this like really limited number of sizes. And so you like tie belts and everything different places to make the clothing fit you. Clothing is not made to fit you, except like post-made. And so like sort of like all of those like ties she had on were sort of like the equivalent of like rolling up your sleeves in.
Okay.
And I was just like, that again, the details, love it.
Yeah, it's so dope. So, and then, but that wasn't even the cool part of the scene. I think this was the best apology I have ever seen caught on film.
Yeah?
Yeah, when Nepo Baby comes up and he's like, and he says to her that he apologizes to her because he didn't speak up and let her husband speak up instead. Mm-hmm. And so her husband and her son died and he was alive and he was like, I just am so ashamed and everything. It was such an artful and deep, meaningful apology. I was just astonished by it.
It was sort of very kind to Fuji. But on the other hand, he was kind of making it about me. Like, what do I need to do to impress my dad? You know, I could have been brave and I could have done this. And I loved Fuji's response to that. It's like, we do what we can when we can, which I thought was such a great tip of the phrasing of like that Teddy Roosevelt quote, do what you can with what you have where you are. But she adds the time element into it. Like, timing matters. And I was like, as a woman in this Japanese society, she's like seriously constrained, and she's like, you have to pick your moment, dude.
Yeah. Anjin-san is not used to it. That is not picking your moment is not an American thing. We make it our moment. We declare it our moment, and then we fight like hell to make it so.
Yeah.
And Anjin-san definitely embodies every bit of that. He is just swinging his arms around, yelling at the top of his lungs, defying everyone at all times.
Because now, there's no time like the present, right? And yeah, Fuji's like, true, but that also might mean that now is not the best time.
And that conflict still exists in the modern day, with Japanese. So Japanese companies will have 100-year plans. Nintendo has a 100-year business plan. And that idea is so foreign to companies in the United States. We struggle to make all of our electronics have had problems with development in terms of home electronics, the Sega and the PlayStation and stuff like that, because there are so many disconnects between our right now mentality and their let's do it slow and steady and win this race over time mentality. They just can't make the two of them fit together.
Yeah, you've got the Japanese company with the 100-year plan, and you've got the American company, but quarterly earnings report.
Yeah, I don't even want to maximize profits for this year. I need to maximize profits for today.
Yes.
Yeah. And everything else can go fuck itself. Which is exactly how Anjin-san operates. He's like, I want my goddamn ship. I want my men. I want all this. I want it right now. Let's do this. And everybody's like, how about you shut up?
Yeah. Mariko's like, okay, so you get all this stuff, and what are you going to go do? What exactly? Yeah. And he's just like, blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's better than standing around. And I was like, yeah. Oh, shit. I'm wrong again. I'm wrong again. But I immediately was like, yeah, go do something, which is what I always do. If I'm going to fuck up, at least I fucked up trying.
Yeah. Well, and you and Anjin and Nepo Baby all are definitely in that same pool.
Yeah.
Just got to do
struggle
something, man.
with
Yeah.
Ooh, we are not counterpunchers. You're one or the other.
Oh, and so the perfect example of somebody looking at the whole game board is Toranaga when Buntaro shows up and he's like, you know what? I want to kill Anjin. I want to kill Anjin because Anjin deserves to die. And Toranaga makes him explain the whole thing.
Yeah.
Because he's got the hots for my wife. And so I want to kill him. He's like, well, got the hots for your wife. You got to kill your wife, too. And he's like, fuck. Wait a second. God damn it.
Yeah, because I love that. It's the only time in history where the person's been like, yo, it takes two to tangle. He wants to bang your wife. All right, fine. That means you have to, if they're banging, fine, kill them both. But otherwise, get away from me with this nonsense. And that's the only time I think in history I've ever heard that happen.
Yeah. And it just makes so clear that Buntaro doesn't love Mariko. He loves some idea of Mariko. He doesn't care about her. It's just like the symbol she represents, like how she feels about anything, whether she's happier or not personally. No, it's just like he has this ideal, and like that's what he's in love with. I'm in love with the idea of possessing her, not anything about her.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. I started to think, like, during this scene, I was like, he actually does, in some weird way, love this woman. He does not want to kill her, because she's constantly asking for death, which is part of the reason why he's so pissed at her. Because now she doesn't want to die because she's around Anjin. And he's like, God damn it, this woman was asking me to die every single day. Now she can't wait to get up and go to work. Like, he's mad and jealous, but it's not even in, like, it doesn't seem like it's in a shitty, possessive way. It's more of like he's driven insane by the fact that he can't win over this woman that he thinks, very wrongly so, that he thinks that he helped out.
Right, yeah. I mean, like the fact that he treated their kid like shit. I mean, again, I don't think he cares about Mariko as a person. He just cares about what she represents. Like her as an individual human being, he has no fucking clue about her and has never wanted one.
True. Although I'm not going to. See, now I feel like I'm taking up for him. I'm not taking up for him. He's a fucking weirdo. Yeah. But you could see there's more to people than we generally give them credit for, and this show is really great at pointing that out. Like, nobody is one dimensional. Everybody is a fucking 24-sided D&D die. It's not. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not like they wrote him this way, and they have done a very good job of writing him as this person. And, hats off to the actor. He is doing the thing. Like, he is so believable as this guy.
Oh, yeah. He's amazing.
And I super appreciated the fact that they didn't wipe the rain off his head for those shots. Like, that was a hell of a thing.
Oh, you're one of those people that's real big on continuity, so you're looking for those little mistakes that they make.
No. It was just more an appreciation that, like, it's raining all the goddamn time. And they're like, you know what? We're not going to pretend at all it's not raining. Like, I have just been wet so much hiking and camping and doing stuff in the Pacific Northwest. No. It's just more of an appreciation. They're like, we're just going to embrace this. You know what? We're wet. It's damp. It's just so much rain. Like, I have this written in my notes at least once an episode at this point.
When we were talking on Friday and I found out that Seattle is even more rainy and dark than Connecticut, I was just like, oh my God. Like, I wanted to fucking die in Connecticut because there was no sun ever. So I can understand why you're like, yeah! Win one for the Gipper. Teach him about sunlessness. We live in sunlessness. I can understand why you feel like that. It would be like if they showed it raining all the time in Tucson or something like that. Like,
yeah,
I get it. I feel you.
Oh goodness, but yeah. So Toranaga's like, God, you people, like. Yes, I like having my distraction with Gin and like talking the pleasure district and whatever, but you people and your emotional bullshit is exhausting. Like,
Plus, we are cold and soggy right now. Everything is cold and soggy. So nobody's in a good mood. You literally couldn't be in a good mood while cold and soggy.
But yeah, so it's just basically like, look, Mariko, like, are you on the right team? Are you team Anjin? Whatever. And she's like, I'm team loyalty. I'll do whatever. But I'm exhausted too. I admit it. And he's like, I don't have time for all of your like dramatic emo song based bullshit.
Take this high school shit somewhere else.
Right.
And she's like, I will, but I will. I'll be your girl for like today, but tonight, could you kill me? Maybe? Do you think you maybe? And he just smacks the knife out of her hand. He's like, get the fuck away from me, lady. Just go do your job.
God, can we get some Prozac in here? Some like mood.
Yeah.
Can we get some of those like sunshine lights? Because God, go drink some tea. Jeez, people, come on.
Who's the next whiny asshole who's coming through my office? Jesus, I got a war to win.
Right, and so he's.
Seriously, he's a general who's trying to figure out how to win a war, and everybody's coming up to him with all this ticky-tack relationship bullshit. Can you imagine if Patton had been bothered by one of his subordinates? That man would have been crucified on the front lines. They would have shot him in a cannon at the end.
Bradley comes out there and goes, so, my wife just found out about the women I was banging on the side. No disrespect to Bradley. I have no idea if he was having an affair, but but I could just see Bradley.
And she was fucking Jody at home too, so yeah.
But I could just, oh my God, Patton would have just taken out his sidearm and shot whoever came to him with a relationship.
Yeah. What in Napoleon's second in command's like, oh, my girlfriend just broke up with me and I just, on the eve of the invasion of Russia.
Or Napoleon would have said, I'm the only one who's allowed to have relationship drama. Get out of here with that.
Yeah. Yeah, while he had his Yoko behind him, stirring up shit. Also, what about his face makes these people think that he wants to hear about their relationship bullshit? This is a man who just looks like he wants to stab everybody and is just disgusted and tired and wants to go to bed. And these people just keep coming into him but I just can't with my wife. She keeps looking at this guy.
But yeah, this is where we do find out it took him 9 times to cut off that head. And he's like, you're like, okay. So, no, he's got a little bit of,
Yeah, because he looks at Yamashita and he's like, why didn't you stand up for me in that dinner? And he's like, no, it was bullshit, that story he told you, and the story he told about you shitting your pants. And he was no, not the shit pants shitting story. The one where I cut a guy's head off with one slice when I was 12. He was like, I was a kid. That man was a fucking idiot. And he was like, yep, he was. They had a good laugh about it.
And that's why, I came to the conclusion at the beginning that I was like, no, that guy was trying to get, his last, little petty-ass revenge. But,
Gotcha.
And then...
And it did not work at all because they're still laughing at his expense 26 years later.
Found a way to walk through that one.
Ooh, he's when you see a 38-year-old Asian person, they typically look very, very young. But back in those days, I guess
he's 58.
Oh, he's 58. 58. Gotcha.
Yeah, because he was 12 when it happened, and then it was and I added it up. I'm like, okay, so he's 58.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. God damn it. Doing math while I'm watching TV? That doesn't seem right.
Well, you are a STEM person, so I guess it comes naturally to you.
There you go. All right. So we get the last scene in this it was a pretty exciting episode with a lot of shit going down, and so we got to have one more thing go down, and Kiku, yep. This is punctuating Gin's point. These women, for all this effort they put in, they're just commodities. So we got to do something about that.
Gin gets her appropriations, yes, in his will, and that is excellent.
Yep. But yeah, so Seiki's back at the tea house, and he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna build a castle, and you're gonna be my seventh concubine. It's gonna be cool. And she's just like, yeah, okay.
You skipped over the surrender. There was a surrender. Toranaga surrendered, which I did not see coming. Did you see that coming?
When he did that, I wasn't that surprised because he's always just playing things close to the chest. And remember a couple of episodes ago where he was taking the same event and using it on different people differently? I was like, so I'm with Gin. He hasn't actually surrendered. He is up to something.
Oh, because you were right. He did also do what you said at the very beginning of the episode. He did not accept the invitation, what he did was say, yes, I'll go ahead and do that tomorrow.
I'm honored you're thinking about me so much. I'm going to go think about that.
Yeah. And so, I'm going to go ahead and I'll probably surrender tomorrow. Yeah. We'll probably get that done tomorrow. I got it penciled in. It's penciled in.
Yep. No, he is up to something for sure. But yeah, Saiki's definitely celebrating. He's like, all right, you're all my hostages. I'm going to, bang this out. And
it gets pretty kinky too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And this was a thing in the book. Like, Clovell actually spends some ink talking about sex toys and whatever. And I was wondering how they were going to weave that in. I was like, this is about as good as it gets. But the way he talks about sex toys in there was like, if what is going on with books right now had been going on in the 70s, they would have been burning libraries about the way how explicitly he spoke about them.
I read some books back in the day that were banned, but some sci-fi books and stuff like that with a lot of weird sex in them. And they got wild. It would turn people's hair gray.
Yeah. No, and it wasn't even like there was much spoken about sex particularly, but he describes in pretty frank detail, sex toys exist. This is what they're made of, and this is what they do.
Well, I don't remember the book hardly at all because I read it so long ago. But was he pretty heavy on the bondage aspect of it? I mean, they had bondage in this, and the dude's getting choked with a sash and all that.
No.
Okay, they didn't go into that.
No. He just talked about the toys in ways that a person in 1970 could not have easily accessed.
All right.
And this is like an airport book. This is something you're picking up, to read on the plane or whatever, or, you just keep in your home where your 12-year-old kid several years later can pick it up and read through it.
We had to get so creative to learn about sex back in the day. We really had to get creative. But
yeah, the stuff that they're banning books over now, I'm like, you might want to. Have you read Flowers in the Attic, for God's sake?
Oh, my God. Flowers in the Attic was in every single person's house in America back in the day. I read it over breakfast because it was sitting on our kitchen counter for 2 years or something like that. And by the time I got to the end, I was like, what the fuck are you guys reading?
Right. Well, I think there weren't quite that many copies because there was always that one copy that got passed around, or the 3 copies that got passed around to school. And I guess
a lot of pages stuck together.
Well, mostly girls were reading it, so it doesn't quite work that way. It's a little different.
Yeah. Well, that is true. That is true. Not a lot of guys reading V.C. Andrews. No. I guess I'm an outlier. We're outliers to begin with for reading.
Yes.
But then, and then now I'm off in the weeds for having read V.C. Andrews. I guess I outed myself just now.
Oh, my goodness. But yes, Kiku is just okay, are we done with this? I think she knew what was about to go down because she nopes out with a great excuse.
Yeah, well, she had to have known because she was like, "Oh yeah. Let's. Do you want to turn this up, kick this up a notch? We can get a little kinkier because we can step this up." Yeah. And he's like, "Oh really? Yeah, let's do it."
And he goes back and he's slurping sake out of the teapot and just kind of being a heathen in general. And then, whoa. We've got an assassination attempt on our hands, but dude, Nepo baby, focus.
No, I gotta say, that was exactly 100% dead accurate. The get up out of bed and waddle naked to the kitchen and grab something out of the fridge and slug it back. You're not taking delicate sips of anything. You're trying to get hydrated so you can get back at it. So or get drunker or whatever. And he's like, I don't know. She might be where is she sticking her hands right now? So let's get a little lubricated. We're gonna go get it done. Yeah. And
But when Nepo baby comes in for the assassination attempt, I mean, clearly the man does not realize the mindset it takes to face to face kill another human being. He was not prepared to do it.
Yeah. And so there's some old cowboy movie where a guy is delivering his whole soliloquy about how he's took forever to learn how to shoot with his left hand because the guy shot his right hand, and And he just gets shot in the face. The second he's like done with it, he gets shot in the face, and the guy's like, if you're going to shoot, don't talk. And it's exactly like that with Nepo Baby. He's out there trying to Inigo Montoya the thing, and it's like, bro, this is your first time. Don't try to make it the best time. Just try to get it done.
Yeah, like he is just, his brain is all over the place. And, that death. Like, I groaned out loud the way he died. I was just like,
It's so dead on, though, now that I think of it, because early in the episode, he was talking about how he thought that, like, sex, or that your first kill could be better than sex. And they laugh, and they're like, well, it depends on the woman. And it's exactly like that, because at the end, he was trying, don't ever try to make your first sex your best sex. That's a recipe for the worst sex anybody's ever had. Just try to be vaguely competent and be conscious and be a willing learner is what you need to do on your first time.
Be present in the moment. But the most tragic thing is that Saiki back at the hot springs pretty much cursed him to this.
Yeah, pretty much. But Saiki even slipped on the rocks. So they were like, the second he saw Saiki slip and break his ankle or whatever on the rocks, he should have been like, maybe I'm going to watch my step. But he did not watch his step.
No,
and
he
slipped
not,
and he cracked his head open on a rock and it was over.
Yeah. But back at the hot springs, because when I was rewatching this jumped out at me. So Saiki says to Nepo Baby, you will be forgotten before you could even be remembered. Mm-hmm. And then Nepo Baby says, well, yeah, but, at least it'll be a beautiful death. And Saiki's like, there's nothing beautiful about death, dude. It's a lonely walk in the woods. And I was just like, he kind of called the curse down upon himself by needling in that way. But Saiki totally cursed him.
Yeah. And it definitely came true. And I did not expect that man to skate out alive either. I thought the brother was going to die very quickly, and I'm surprised he's still alive to chortle at everyone.
Yeah, but again, I think this is part of Toranaga's thing. Like he's just making things more complicated. Like this is the man of not straight lines, and there's not like a clear thing from here to there. He's going to make it as knotted and complicated as possible, but
he can still turn him back to the light side.
Yep. But the emo songs to be written about Nagakoda, Nepo Baby's death, I mean, there's albums there, man.
Well, I have had Stacy's mom stuck in my head for 2 days. I think it's a legitimate mental condition now, so it's not quite emo, but it's headed in the direction.
Yes. I mean, I'm gonna do something great to impress my dad, and I die in a pool on a rock in a whorehouse. It's just. Oh my god. Oh, good episode, and we are definitely winding up to something great because I mean we only have 8, 9, 10, 3 episodes left, and Toranaga is headed off to Osaka to turn himself in, and I don't think anybody's gonna be happy about that.
I am fascinated to see what's going to happen here because I genuinely cannot. I don't know what the out is. You recommended Dune 2 to me so I watched it over the weekend. I was glued to it, and in the film he says that he can see a little path through, and then he turns into that. Well, I won't spoil it, but I was just that it was. He didn't really see a path through, but he said he could see one. And I feel like if somebody said that now, he was like, I could see a way through where everybody's going to come out all right. No, you're lying. Well,
I think what both of them have in common, because this is the fascinating thing about Dune to me. When you read that book as a teenager, you really think of Paul as the good guy because he's written as the protagonist. He's the protagonist. And you root for him. But you sort of look at him as you get older and see him in a broader context, and it's like, no, this is how you make a megalomaniac.
Yep. Yeah.
And this is how people are charmed by it. And you sort of look at Toranaga, and you have to have unbelievably high self-regard for yourself. I'm not saying necessarily narcissism, but you just have to regard yourself so highly to pull off these complicated things or attempt to.
And you have to have a lifetime of people gassing you up too. So when you have a when you fail forward, they turn it into a great victory, and you knew it all along. And when you take 9 times to chop off a guy's head, it's one slice. And like, it just, so that's great. It's how a cult of personality is built, and how a person starts buying their own bullshit enough that they can do all this crazy shit.
Yeah. And, you know, you see somebody like Toranaga, and I feel like he's a little more balanced because, like, I think he had some experiences in his life. He's like, yeah, I could have died then. And I think he works hard to try not to forget that.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, he definitely does have this very high self-regard for himself, the same way Anjin does, the same way. I mean, can you imagine trying to play like a board game with the Taiko before he died? Like, if he lost or whatever, or like had a bad roll, like, would you have said like, well, sucks, sorry you lost? I can't imagine that guy would have been fun to play, just like,
yeah, you're not trying to play, you're not trying to win at Go. You just want to make him look good. That's right. You want to lose artfully. You would probably become a master Go player just from learning how to drag out losses you were trying to engineer.
Right. Yeah. Like keep him afloat for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Make it look like you're almost going to beat him and then lose artfully. Yeah. Yes, it'd be a lot of that, trying to keep your head atop your shoulders.
Yes. Because there it goes. Whoops, sorry about that. We have a bucket of, like, you set out the Go board and then like a bucket over in the corner.
Yeah. Also, how weird is it that they were just practicing all day to try to cut somebody's head off with one swipe?
Dude, yeah. Yikes.
Instead of doing that in the West at the exact same time, like at about, well, it was a little earlier, but they were still using the weapon at the same time. In Romania, the sword that Vlad the Impaler used was basically, they combined the best parts of like a long saber and an axe. So the head of the sword was kind of weighted and thickened at the end.
Okay.
So it had way more chopping power than a katana, but it didn't require like the immense amount of training in order to chop through a person. Okay,
so you needed some like more like lifting strength, but it helped you on the downstroke.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly. In the West, rather than being like, we're going to practice this until we are the best person we could ever be at it, we're like, you know what? Let's just get a little stronger, make it a little heavier, and go a little harder. And I mean, that really is a great way to describe the difference between the methods of the East and the West, don't you think?
When Buntaro is complaining about the cannons, he's like, yeah, these cannons are so clunky, but look at all of the skill I have with an arrow. My arrows are always going to be more accurate than your dumb fucking cannons. It's like, well, yeah, but how many decades did it take for you to get good enough to shoot multiple arrows through one hole in a shoji screen, whereas clearly I can just train, a bunch of like whatever soldiers to shoot these cannon accurately. Like I was able to do that in like a couple of weeks.
Yep. And that's why the samurai ended up falling during this period, was because the traditionalists didn't want to adopt all of the westernized technology and shit like that, and the idea of Bushido did not translate well to modern fighting.
No.
It wasn't one-on-one combat at all. It was, like they said, dishonorably from afar.
Right, and so it is always that question, like, there are a lot of ways to kill a lot of people wholesale, but by making the whole exercise of killing sort of like this artisanal, individualistic thing, you actually kind of keep it down, but once anybody can deal death wholesale, you have created an entirely different society.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to kill 200 people in a crowd at a concert with a samurai sword, but much easier to kill them from a distance with something that any idiot can handle.
Little sarin gas, AR-15, I don't know, take your pick.
Yeah. Well, the sarin gas is really more of a Tokyo, that's more of a Japanese type scenario than it is and let's not give our American incels any ideas. We don't want them learning from the Tokyo subway experiences.
No. Well, there's always mustard gas. That was a Western thing.
Is that actually made from mustard seed?
I'm not sure exactly where the mustard thing comes in. It might, like, mustard oil might have been like one of the components in making the chemicals that came out
Okay.
that created it. Yeah.
Or maybe it was just because it was yellow.
Or maybe it just like the way it burns your throat or something. I don't know.
Oh.
I haven't looked too heavily in it. All I know is which household chemicals you should not mix to make them more potent in cleaning out your bathroom. That's
Yes.
I'm gonna stop right there.
Yes. And I when I was watching the hot springs thing, I took a step back and I was like, maybe it's possible that they associated that scent with the hot tub experience in the same way we associate a very strong chlorine scent, which I'm sure to most people would seem horrible, but to us it seems clean, even though it's scouring our lungs.
Right. Oh, you're talking about like the sulfurous smell.
Yeah,
that comes
yeah, because
out of
I just really
yeah.
have a hard time getting over people just surrounding themselves in that smell because it's so awful.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you will put up with a shitty smell for a hot tub on a cold, shitty, windy, rainy day.
I was going to say, it's been 38 degrees and cloudy for 6 weeks. I bet you would get into a stinky hot spring.
Yeah, I probably would. You're right.
You're like, 104 degree water? I've been cold for 6 weeks.
Yeah, my feet have been cold as long as I have been alive. Give me the hot tub. I don't care what it smells like.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap this one up.
We've done it.
We'll be back next week.
We will.
For episode 8. And whatever that entails, but it's definitely going to entail a trip to Osaka. I'm absolutely sure about that.
Osaka.
Yes.
Well, until then, everybody can catch me on Instagram at Plague of Strength, where I post every day. Where can they catch you?
You can find me at the History of American Food, and I am deep into the madcap 19th century. And, dude, it's crazy in there.
Crazy. What part of the madcap 19th century are you in this week?
Oh, I don't know. Well, you'll just have to go and find out.
Yes, we will.
All right.
All right, we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.
We're on Instagram at PCG Podcast. And you can always reach out to us by email at pcgpodcasters@gmail.com. And you can find more dope beats like this one from royalraven.com.